Greetings and welcome to Human Diversity and Christian Community Core 2013, a one-on-one discussion with my friend, Dr. Richard Harris. Today we'll be discussing culture, wars, racism, and diversity. Dr. Harris, first I want to say, welcome, my friend. I got to tell you, students, Dr. Harris and I, we have a history, and he'll go into that, but he's not only a friend and a colleague, but we also share a pulpit together at Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church. And before we get started, I just want to say Dr. Harris is a well-known published author, and if you haven't got his book titled One Nation Under Curse, in dealing with diversity, when you hear his story, I encourage you to go out and purchase a book. He'll be able to tell you where to get this book from. But I want to tell you, as someone who teaches and develop diversity courses, and someone who goes out and speaks to different audiences on diversity, this is a one-of-a-kind book. He pulls no punches, and that's what it's about when we come back when we talk about diversity. But I'm just going to ask. I'm going to keep belaboring. I want to ask Dr. Harris to tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, Dr. Stevens. First of all, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And about myself, well, right now I'm a professor at Southeastern University. I teach in the human communication area, things such as public speaking and advanced speech and interracial communication. We're going to be doing that course together coming up this fall. And so interpersonal, small group, that kind of thing. But I've also been a pastor for the last 31 years. And now I am on staff at Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church. But what makes that so unusual is you have to go back before I became a pastor, before I even became a Christian. And that was when I was in my teen years and early 20s, back in the 1970s. And I joined the Ku Klux Klan.
Wow.
I was a racist. I was a white supremacist. I was the Grand Dragon of the state of Indiana. And so I ran the whole state of Indiana. A lot of people don't think of Indiana being a Klan state, but actually Indiana is the largest Klan state north of the Mason-Dixon line. So those early years of mine, I spent my time with white supremacy, hatred, violence, and racism. And then I met Jesus Christ as my Savior. Turned my life around and started me on the path towards diversity and love and believing in the dignity and just the wonderful way God created every single human being, regardless of the tint of the color of their skin.
Wow, well, thank you so much. He has an amazing story, and I would tell you, students, let me just share something with you. I remember before Dr. Harris became a member of our church, we invited him out to our men's conference out at Lake Yale, and I need you to understand, and I want to get into the conversation with Dr. Harris, but we had individuals in our congregation that was age 90 all the way, from age 90 and below. So some of these 90-year-olds, they literally lived that era of Ku Klux Klans and the racism. And so what I didn't tell them everything they needed to know about Dr. Harris, but just the fact that he was coming. And Dr. Harris came out, and when he said just what he said, that, who he was, and then on top of that, he brought out one of the robes that he had, and he showed this room full of African-American, older and younger men. And if I could have just filmed the response in that room, because, and what we told Dr. Harris is the only time as an African-American you would see that robe is if you were being hung from a tree. And here it is, they actually got to see it and got to touch it. So we really thank Dr. Harris for showing us that and just showing us how God can transform. And just like he did with Paul at the time, to Paul. And so that's what happened here with Dr. Harris, and he is a beloved member of our church. So I want you to really, really feel in this interview the depthness or the deepness of what is going on here. You have an ex-Klan member, and you have here it is, an African-American male, and now both are Christians on the same stage. In fact, I think it was in 2007, Dr. Harris hired me on as a professor here at Southeastern University. Yes. So in telling your story, since you were so involved with racism, I think you're an expert to give us a definition of defining what is true, your definition of true racism.
Well, racism has got a lot of different definitions. We've thrown around a lot of different definitions. But the definition that really settles with me is racism is when one person considers their particular race to be superior to others, and therefore it begins to impact the way they think, their attitude towards other races, and the things that they do, the things that they say. Okay. That's racism. We can talk about overt racism. Yes. We can talk about hidden racism. But the other thing about racism is, of course, the word that associates with that is racist. And that's a name-calling type of thing. We have basically broken up society in most people's minds into two different groups, the racist and the non-racist. And unless you're wearing a white sheet in the Klan, or you're giving the Heil Hitler salute as a Nazi, you don't want to be considered a racist. You don't want to think of yourself as a racist. So everyone automatically thinks, when we talk about racism, oh, that's not me because I'm not a card-carrying Klan member, I'm not a Nazi, so I'm not a racist. I would love to see the conversation change from talking about racists and non-racists to talking about where are you at on the racial bias continuum. You cannot, and I don't care whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, you cannot grow up in this nation without having some racial bias. Because we are bombarded with this every single day through the media, through our parents' teaching sometimes, things we learn at school, sometimes even the church that we attend. We are bombarded with this racial bias message that some races are good, some races are bad, and we are all somewhere on that continuum. And so I kind of reserve the racist mark for those people who would be proud to wear it, the Klan, the Nazis, those who are able to just come out and say, yes, I'm racist, I'm proud of it. And I know that because I was that at one time. I want to talk about where people are. Where are you at on this continuum of racial bias? And let's move away from the racist end, and let's talk about moving towards being more accepting, more loving to each other.
And I like that, and I like where you said let's talk about getting and moving toward that. That brings me to my next question. Why do we find it so hard, Dr. Harris, to conversate about race, especially for two people of different ethnic backgrounds or ethnic makeup? Why can't we have that conversation like you and I? Why can't the rest of America have that? Or what I see, and I don't know if you see it, they tiptoe around it, or they're scared they may offend. But why does it you think that's the case?
We beat around the bush, we tiptoe through the tulips, we do everything that we possibly can to avoid that. For some reason, some reasons are, for instance, we are taught that polite society, we need to be polite to each other, and that's one of those subjects that you just don't discuss in polite company. Race, politics, and religion, those are three taboo subjects. We just don't bring those up because we're afraid that there's going to bring a controversy, which we shouldn't be afraid of controversy. We shouldn't be afraid of people disagreeing. We can disagree. We can see things from different perspectives because we do. But the only way you get beyond that is if you listen to other people's perspectives and see what is the truth in what they are saying.
Yes.
So we don't need to shy away from these conversations. You know, I always say that we have been too comfortable, too quiet, and too complacent for too long. We have got to bring this out into the open, and we have got to start having real meaningful dialogues with each other so that we can get beyond some of these problems, some of these stereotypes that we have been bombarded with.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to share with the students, I think it's so important, like Dr. Harris said, that we're able to have that conversation, and we may not agree on a whole lot of things, and we can agree to disagree. And I recall some years back when I was teaching a face-to-face diversity course to some young young traditional students, and I had one of the students had a totally different, she had a strong view that was totally opposite of what the majority of the students in class, and she came to me and she told Dr. Stevens, I'm going to drop the course, and she said, because I feel like, you know, my views, and I said, and I did everything I could to convince this young lady to stay in the course, because I said, you're exactly what we need. I said, this is so one-sided. I said, they need to hear this. That's especially here in academia, because if we're not discussing it here, it's not going to be discussed anywhere else, because it'll start here, and then you guys and ladies will go out to all over this country and all over this world and have that conversation. So it is important that we do that. In saying that, I'm going to ask you, I want to ask this question. What is the church role when it comes to diversity, and when it comes to race and race relations? What is the church role, or do we even have a role, especially as Christians?
As Christians, we definitely have a role, and we have not played our role very well in this country. I'll tell you that right now, because right now our churches are for the most part still segregated. We have white churches, we have black churches. You and I are both pastors in a black church, historic African American, predominantly black church. Granted, we have some whites, we have some Hispanics attending, but by and large, it's still an African American church. The church has got to come to the realization that we need to do more in modeling good, healthy racial relations with each other to the rest of society. Changing pulpits, black church changing pulpits with a white church once a year, that's not going to cut it. We've got to be intentional, and we've got to reach out, and we also have to teach our people, regardless of what color the church, local church is. We've got to teach our people how to communicate with people of other races. Because even though we're integrated, and we have integration in our schools, we have integration in the workplace, we have integration in restaurants and stores now, when people go home at night, they tend to go home and they tend to go into their all white or all black or all Hispanic world, into their home, and they don't really have friends. They have acquaintances. They have colleagues of other races, but they don't have friends of other races. Friends meaning that, you know, we go out to dinner together, or we go on family vacations together, people that are not like us. And so we have self-segregated ourselves into our own worlds, and we have done the same thing with our churches. Our churches were segregated from years ago, but most churches have never really gotten serious about reaching out and saying, everybody's welcome here.
That's good, Dr. Harris. Well, let me ask you this. How can we honor God in our interaction with people of other race and ethnicities?
Dignity. Human dignity.
That's good.
And respect.
Dignity and respect.
We show dignity and respect to every human being, and we listen to people who are not like us. We listen. One thing about America, white is the dominant culture. We have been the dominant culture since this nation was founded. We are still the dominant culture. And because of that, white people have never really listened to people of color. And it's time we start listening. But I have found, even in our church, the African American church, I have run across members in our church who are not listening to even other ethnic minorities. Well, they're not African American, and they're not really listening to what they're saying either. It goes both ways. We've got to listen to each other, but it's primarily it's on the white church to start listening to people of color, because it's very easy to live in this white world of ours and not listen to those around us. As a Christian, we've got to listen to our brothers and sisters.
That's good. That's good. Let me ask you this then, as we begin to come to a close, how do you define diversity in the sense of what does a diverse America look like to Dr. Harris?
Again, I go back to that respect. I go back to that dignity. I go back to us treating each other, everyone, with respect, dignity, listening. Diversity comes from the root word from which we get the same words as divide and difference. We have focused so much on these groups are different from us. It's very easy to take that and take it one step further. Oh, they are the other people. We have to go beyond diversity. I like to say diversity is the journey. Conversity is the goal. Conversity comes from that Latin root word of con, meaning common, similar, same. It's not the same as color blindness. Color blindness is when you say, I don't see color.
Right.
We cannot go there.
No.
We have got to go to conversity. Conversity means I recognize that you have different experiences, you have different life experiences than I have. Your life as a black man in America is very much different than my life. We both have PhDs, we're both very highly educated, but your life and my life, we have different experiences in this country. But we've got to go beyond that and see, let those differences, we celebrate those differences, but we've got to go to the place where we are also very similar. We've got to get to that place where I see you as a human being. Yes, you've had different experiences. I've had different experiences. I acknowledge those. In other words, you've got things you can teach me. Maybe I can teach you a few things. I don't know, but we'll try. And bottom line, we're similar. You are my brother in Christ. Yes. And I love you, and I respect you, and I hold you in high esteem. That's where we've got to go with diversity. Move from diversity is the journey. Conversity, recognizing how we can get along and work with each other. That's the goal in America.
Thank you. Wow, that's the new word, conversity, and that's so powerful. And as Dr. Harris was speaking, what came to mind is many of you, if you haven't heard this before, is the melting pot terminology. That's where you take a bunch of crayons and you put them in a pot and you turn it on and everything assimilates into one. Well, and I love what you said too about the colorblind, being colorblind. It's just not realistic to because if we're colorblind, once we open our eyes, we're going to see the different colors. So we've gotten away from that melting pot terminology, and now we've moved toward what we call the salad bowl. And what the salad bowl is, it consists of a salad that consists of all the different other pieces, as for instance, cucumbers and tomatoes and lettuce and carrots and all of those. If by themselves they're just a tomato, or by themselves they're just a piece of lettuce, but when you put them all together, and that's what when I think about America, that's what we look at. When you put them all together, the lettuce has this distinct taste, the tomato has this distinct taste. You put it in as a salad, it doesn't lose that taste. but they become that word salad or America with their own, keeping their own particular culture and whatnot. And so that's so important that we get away from that, and we're able to do that. We're able to come together without losing our own identity. I just want to thank you, Dr. Harris, and give you, is there anything you'd like to say before we close to the students?
Sure. I want to play off of what you gave, that metaphor.
Okay.
You know, we have never been a melting pot. You know, we thought we were, but we really have never been a melting pot. There are always the black sections of large cities and the Italian sections and the German sections. We've never been a melting pot. Salad bowl is where we need to be heading. That's a great metaphor, but we aren't there yet.
Oh, no.
I like to say where we really are still as a nation, we're a veggie tray. We're a veggie tray. You know what a veggie tray is? Each little compartment has, all right, and that's what we do. We self-segregate into all of our different little compartments. We've got to move from the veggie tray to that tossed salad.
I like that.
To that salad bowl.
I like that.
That's where we've got to go. And students your age, you've got the future ahead of you. I'll be gone soon. So will Dr. Stevens. But you are the future. And you can decide whether you're going to move from that veggie tray where we are now into making into a rich, delicious salad bowl. And I hope that you choose to work, to learn, to listen, and to make friends intentionally with people of other races.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harris.
Thank you.
Just for your honesty, your openness, for pouring into the lives of our students. I just look forward to our upcoming class together and just having more and more dialogue with you. Again, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.